In this lesson, we are now playing in a new key. We've been playing in the key of C for the past 29 pages, and now we're going to play in the key of G. And since we're playing in the key of G, we're going to have a new major scale. The key of C has the C major scale, the key of G has the G major scale. And if you look at page 30 at the top of the page, and we look at the key signature of this first exercise, we notice that there is a sharp on the F line, which means that we would have all our Fs sharped. So whenever we're playing in the key of G or G scale, the natural note in it will be an F sharp, not an F natural. G scale. We know all the other notes because they're all the same notes in the key of C except for one note that's different, is F sharp. Low G, third finger. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Back. Fourth finger. Now I'll play the exercise of the key of G major, first position. 1, 2, 3, 4. Three, 4. Three, 4. And since we're playing in the key of G, we'll be playing some more chords that are more related to the key of G. You already know most of them, but we already know G7, but the first chord on page 30 is G. So if you play G7, take off your first finger and put your fourth finger on G, you have G. Then we have G7, then we have the C chord. You already know that. G diminished, look at that. Look at that, 4, 2, 3, 1. Then we have the G chord, the D7, which you haven't played yet. G, and then since we're playing the G chord like that, we can play the C chord with the G on top. So exercise 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Coming up with the G diminished. And in the key of G, we also have these minor chords. E minor, A minor. Here's a chord that goes to E minor a lot, B7, and E minor again. Exercise 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exercise 3 on top of 31 is a combination of all the chords that you just had on page 30. 1, 2, 3, 4. B7, E minor, C, G, G diminished. Rest. The B7 usually is the hardest one to get. But if you notice, when we play E minor, our lowest note is B with our second finger. If we keep that down and then keep that anchored, we can usually get the B7 fairly quickly. Just think about getting your fourth finger on the second fret, third finger on the second fret of the third string. Also, if we're playing A minor and we need to go to B7, we just move our second finger up to B and keep our third finger down on A. It's economy of motion that is very important. We need to watch out that we don't waste movement. The easier it is to go from one note to the other, that's the way to play the chords. At the page, on page 31, now we're going to play 16th notes. We've mentioned whole notes, 4 beats per measure, in 4/4 time, common time. Half notes get 2 beats. Quarter notes get 1 beat. Eighth notes get a half a beat. And now 16th notes will go to a quarter of a beat, or 4 16th notes per beat. So let's just take the note G. We're doing whole note, 2, 3, 4. Half note, 1, 2, 3, 4. Quarter note, 1, 2, 3, 4. Eighth note, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 16th. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice I have to use alternate picking, and it's twice as fast as the eighth notes. So if I'm playing the first measure, let me show you the first 2 measures of the 16th note exercise. It's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and Some people say pomegranate, pomegranate, pomegranate. Whatever you can say that will get the 4 syllables in one beat will help you out. 1 16th note, 2 16th note, 3 16th note, 1 A and a, 2 A and a, 3 A and a. Whatever gets that division of 4 per beat. Here is the 16th note exercise. The important thing is not to start too fast. 1, 2, 3, 4. The hardest part with this is making sure that you give the quarter note the full beat. 4th line, first measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, da, 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 da. Watch out for even rushing the 8th notes. 2nd measure, next to the last line. G, F sharp, E, D. G, F sharp, E, D. Page 32 is our first duet in the key of G. Make sure that all the F's are sharped. Look over the rhythms and look over the form. There are a couple of different chords here that you will have to go over before you play through it. But first, let me play it for you. Part 1, duet in G. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, the rhythm is fairly obvious at the beginning. Watch out for the dotted quarter note, F sharp. Watch out for the fingering, that B and D. Starting on the third line, we have some chords, and then there's one really odd sounding chord, which when you play it in the duet will sound much more acceptable than what it sounds like by itself. So on the third line you have the small D7, G chord, then F natural, right? Then there's F natural, C sharp, and G. Then you have the D7, and the way I played the next chord, I slide down. So D7, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. Make sure you try and continue playing your eighth notes with alternate picking. So now it's time for you to practice the top part. Here's the second part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. On this part, watch out for your alternate picking and your entrances, and counting your entrances. Starting right from the first measure, you come in on the second beat of the first measure. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is where it gets tricky. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. half note on the second beat. 1, 2, 3, rest. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2. First three measures again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2. And that's basically the hardest part of this piece. Other than, let's say, third line, we have from the beginning 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. I'll do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. Don't forget C sharp, F sharp here. So this is your time to practice it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Picking etude number 2. This is a very important picking etude because you are skipping strings with alternate picking. The whole idea of this is to make the melody, which is our first two measures of the first line, sound like the last, still ring out with the eighth notes. I'll demonstrate. Here's your first two measures of the first line. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice how they're held, they're a beat each. So now you have the second two measures. So I'm going to play the top line with the repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Second line, I'll do it again with a repeat. Make the second two measures, make that melody sound like the first two. 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeat. The next one is with that we play the whole first four measures and then the exercise. After that, the next four measures are with the eighth notes. We'll repeat those 8 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'll play the last 3 lines, and I'll repeat that second line as it is in the music. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I'll play the whole page, but I won't do the repeats. I'll go straight through the whole page. 1, 2, 3, 4. Our next page, page 34, is another duet in G. Actually, that's the title, Another Duet in G. So here's the top part. 1, 2, 3, 4. When looking at this music, you're going to see a measure that has a rhythm that might not be used to. That's in the third measure of the first line. The G comes on the end of 1, the F sharp comes on the end of 2, and then you have ED, ED, 3 and 4 and. And the pick markings are upstroke on G and F sharp. Why? Because they're on the and of the beat. So it'll be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It makes it easier to count when we do the upstrokes on the and beats and downstrokes right on the down beats. The next rhythm that I would like you to look at is on the second measure of the second line. You notice we're using a tie here, just like we talked about it in the previous pages. This G in the second measure of the second line gets 2.5 beats. and I would count it 1, 2, 3, and 4, and like this. This is second measure, second line. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. Notice when I played the B on the end of 3, I'm again using an upstroke, downstroke on C, which is on 4. We have that rhythm a couple more times. Third line, third measure, third line, fourth measure. I'll play both of those measures. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. As far as the notes in this first part, there's a couple of notes that we haven't played as much. On the first line, there's this D sharp on the last beat of the fourth measure. We're hitting E, F sharp, G, D sharp, E. Kind of a big leap between the E and the F sharp, so you have to make sure you get to it on time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Also, on the first measure of the fourth line, we have a D, D sharp on the fourth beat, eighth notes, going to E. And you would use your fourth finger for D sharp. I don't want you to slide right now. There are times when sliding is useful, but right now I'd like you to use the fourth finger as the marking has. So it's 4 and 1. I'll play the first two measures on the fourth line. 1, 2, 3, 4. The last measure on the first part, we hold the G, we hold the D, and we play the low G. In fact, I would finger the low G as I'm playing the G and the D, the higher G and then the D. So the last two measures on the first line. I'll do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure you try and continue to play legato and count. Now it's your turn to work on part 1. Here is part 2. Before we even start, we're playing in the second measure. Our entrance happens in the second measure of this piece. So I would be counting off 1, 2, 3, 4. Then to myself, I'd be counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. One, 2, 3, 4. Just a reminder, this piece is in the key of G, and we're always playing F sharps unless we have a natural sign to tell us not to play an F sharp. The first time we come to an F sharp, in the last measure of the first line. C, D, E, F sharp. We have F sharps all the way through this second part. One of the most important parts here, and you should remind yourself there's an F sharp, is in the second measure of the fourth line. We have the two notes G and B, and we have F sharp and C. Not F and C, F sharp and C. It's actually the top part of a D7 chord. Again, the rhythms are reflective of what we played in the first part. In the first measure of the second line, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3. Even the first note that we play in this piece starts on the and of 3. And I would start with that with an upstroke. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1. And again, we have that rhythm of 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1. Make sure the G is always ringing. Now it's your time to practice the second part. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have just finished the lesson that started on page 30. And this lesson consisted of learning a new major scale, the G scale, playing duets in G, learning about 16th notes, and also having a very important picking etude. Please remember to play everything slowly at first. Practice everything at a steady tempo. You could speed it up and play it along with me, or can play even faster. But you will not get the benefit of practicing this without playing it slowly and evenly with legato.